everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to make sourdough starter in the kitchen. Sourdough starter is one of those things that everybody loves sourdough bread, but there's a lot of mystery behind it. And to be honest, sourdough bread can be a little bit labor intensive, or at least more so than just regular loaf bread. But the first thing you need if you're going to try making sourdough bread is a sourdough starter. Now you can buy sourdough starter from a commercial source, you can borrow it from a friend, or you can make it yourself. Most bread uses a rising yeast, that's a commercial product, but if you don't have that, or if you're living off grid, or just trying to be more self-sufficient, or just want to add a little bit more flavor to your bread, sourdough and a sourdough starter is a great way to accomplish those things. So making your own sourdough starter and making your bread from the yeast in your own environment is not only something that helps you to be self-sufficient or do a little weekend homesteading type of thing, but it's also a lot of fun. So stay tuned and we're going to explore making your sourdough starter from scratch. To make our sourdough starter, we're just going to use 3 ingredients. We have some whole wheat flour, just some purified water, or if you have well water, you just don't want to use city water that maybe has chlorine or fluoride in it. And then today we're going to use pineapple juice rather than just plain water. The little bit of sugar and whatnot in the pineapple juice will help with the fermentation process and allow our starter to grow a little bit more rapidly. The first thing you need is some sort of vessel. And when I say vessel, I just mean some sort of jar or bowl or some sort of container that you could put a lid or put a cover over it. I'm just going to use a wide mouth pint-sized jar. Our volume is going to be fairly small to start with, so I won't need anything real large. What we're going to do is we're going to mix 3.5 tablespoons of whole wheat flour and 1/4 cup of unsweetened pineapple juice. And unsweetened just means that there's not additional sugar added. Now, even though we will use water later in the recipe, we will not need it for our first day. So we can go ahead and I'm just going to dump that out. So we're going to add in 3.5 tablespoons of whole wheat flour. There's 1, 2, 3, and about 1/2, give or take. Nothing real scientific. The other thing you could do too, if you didn't want to buy a whole jug of pineapple juice, you could just buy some unsweetened pineapple chunks or slices and use the juice out of that can. Okay, and here's 1/4 cup of pineapple juice. And we're just going to mix this up. And as you can see, it's kind of a pancake batter consistency. And that's all for today. We're just going to go ahead and loosely cap this. You could just put a towel or a paper towel over it as well. And we're going to let this sit for 48 hours, vigorously stirring it about 2 to 3 times a day over the next 2 days. So we are probably at about 44 hours, give or take. So a couple more hours, we're gonna feed this starter. And as you can see, there's a little bit of liquid on top. And that is normal. But that's why we want to vigorously stir this a couple times a day during this 48-hour period. I can tell it's changed consistency. It's more watery than it was before, and that could be because it needs to be fed. Well, it has been 48 hours since we started our starter. So today we're going to add 2 tablespoons of non-sweetened pineapple juice and 2 tablespoons of whole wheat flour. We're going to mix that up, and within a day or 2, we should really start seeing some fermentation happening. All right, so we're gonna stir that up and put the cover back on. And like I said, we're gonna leave it for another day or 2. And remember, we're gonna stir it vigorously 2 to 3 times a day. As you can see, the consistency, That's kind of what you're looking for, is just that pancake batter. Mix in your flour pretty well, and we're done for today. So for the next 2 days, I'm going to stir this vigorously 2 to 3 times a day, and I will see you in 48 hours. Well, we are at about 43, 45 hours after we fed this starter for the second time. So let's take a look at it. As you can see, it has changed a lot. There's lots of activity going, and judging by the height of the residue on the jar, this has come up and now it is on its way down. So what that tells me is we need to feed it. So we are going to go ahead and feed it again, but this time instead of using pineapple juice, we are going to use regular purified or well water, and this will start our normal feeding schedule. At this point, we can say that we have sourdough starter, and we are going to feed it just to keep it healthy and keep it growing and get enough volume that we can use in a recipe. And if we don't want to use it right away, or we want to keep it without having to feed it daily, we can go ahead and put it in the fridge, and that will slow down the yeast activity. All right, everybody, it is day 4. We are about another 48 hours into this sourdough starter project. And I came home for lunch today and I noticed that my starter is now very, very active. I could have fed it this afternoon when I was home, but I really wanted to get it on video so you guys could see what this looks like. So as you can see, the starter is full of bubbles and it is rather frothy, kind of. It is very bubbly. So we're just gonna go ahead and stir this in. It feels wet on top and a little thicker on the bottom, so we're gonna stir that bottom in and get it all mixed in. And then we're going to go ahead and feed our starter. So now we're gonna feed it tonight by giving it 5 1/4 teaspoons of whole wheat flour and 3 teaspoons of water. Then we're gonna mix that in very well. Then we're gonna cover it again, leave it for 24 more hours, and tomorrow night we're gonna go ahead and feed it again. And this time is when we're really making the volume for our starter, and we're gonna feed it with a 1/2 cup of whole wheat flour and maybe 1/4 to 1/3 cup of water. Now we've switched over from pineapple juice to water tonight. That will be the first time, and from now on, when we feed it, we will just mix equal weights of water and flour. So we're gonna go ahead and give our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You go about 5 1/4, give or take, and 3 tablespoons of water. Now your water doesn't have to be any certain temperature. It will come up to room temperature when it sits in here. 1, 2, 3. And that will be it. And we're gonna go ahead and stir this into our mixture. It's pretty thick. I might have to give just a little bit more water. Although it's coming along. You don't want it thick like dough, but you don't want it watery either. Kind of that, like a very thick pancake batter consistency. I don't know if you can see that. I wish you could smell this, because right now it smells like sourdough. And that is another indicator that we are ready to rock with this starter. You can see it's a little bit thicker than the first batch that we made. It kind of sticks to the wood straw here for the most part. All right, so we're gonna cap this and we're gonna come back tomorrow night, and then we're gonna give it the major feeding. And after that feeding, our sourdough starter should be ready to go into a recipe. I fed the starter last night and it is now ready to use in my recipe. As you can see, it has expanded greatly and it is bubbly and very active.